I mentioned this yesterday, kind of good news and bad news. Good news was we had our first sort of inter-squad scrimmage. We scored 88 points. We shot 50% from three. We shot 55% from the field. We had 19 assists and only 11 turnovers. That's the good news. The bad news is we did it against ourselves, which means we couldn't guard anybody. So I don't know whether to be happy because the offense scored or angry because we didn't make enough defensive plays and didn't show enough speed and athleticism to bother ourselves. So other than that, that's I like where we're at right now, the position that we're in. We got stuff to do to get ready for the season, but it's been a good start to camp.
BP, how about having Charles back for this event and the prestige he brings?
Yeah, well, when you do an event like this, first of all, it should be Barkley, Bruce, and basketball. It should not be the other way around. Okay, I don't know whose idea that was, but when you do things like this, you set it up. You think that Charles will come back every now and then and support the event. He supports Auburn and stuff like that. What does it say about the fact that he's never missed the event? That he gets in, that actually comes to town early before the football game, that he stays afterwards, that he's as engaging with a donor that puts his name on the building with anybody that's anybody that's in the community. It doesn't matter to Charles. He treats everybody so well. The fact that he is one of the most recognizable men in the world, one of the most successful men in the world, and that he's an Auburn man and wears it on his sleeve, and he brings visibility and credibility to Auburn University like nobody else, and certainly to our basketball program. Because here's the deal, Charles, like him or love him, he is authentic, and he is going to tell you what he thinks. And I don't think he's going to tell you what he thinks because it's the politically correct thing to do. I think he's just going to tell you what he thinks. And he thinks we're doing a decent job here with Auburn basketball, and that's what I want to be able to continue to try to do.
Bruce, you mentioned you thought you would have better three-point shooting this season with the guys that you brought in. I know it's only been a couple days of practice, but what have you kind of seen out of that group with them actually on the floor now that makes you confident that'll be the case?
Well, I mean, I think that we'll have at least 4 players on the floor at all times that are confident to shoot it. It's a good news, bad news. The bad news is that they're all wanting to shoot it, then we're not getting inside enough, we're not getting it to the rim enough, we're not getting to the foul line enough. And inside shots typically give you inside rebounds. These will be long shots, long rebounds. We've got to do a better job of chasing them down and affect your transition defense. At the same time, it does open the lane up a little bit, and we need that because I'd like to see us have a little bit more of our guys being able to break their man down one-on-one and get to the rim.
How do you think Aiden did in that scrimmage?
Well, I think having the scrimmage and having it be sort of at an open practice a little bit, there were a few people in the stands, and I thought you could see that Aiden stepped up a little bit. His energy level was really good, but he could make shots. And now he's got to continue to do a better job to be a better playmaker. And what happens is players should go to their strengths. So I'm going to want Aiden to score because that's what he does really well offensively. I want him to improve as a passer because it'll make us better and it'll make him better. When he doesn't pass it, will have nothing to do with him being selfish or not giving the ball up. It's just that he's better shooting it than he is passing it right now. We got to work on improving that a little bit. And like every freshman, the transition from high school to college, it's all in the defensive end, the physicality of the game and the defense.
Only a handful of guys in college basketball last year averaged 20 a game. You got one of them in Denver. Just how much have you seen just early on? How much he could upgrade your offense, especially that 2-guard spot from what y'all have?
Well, Denver will score. Denver can. He was a shooter at Florida International. I think he's become more of a scorer, but he won't average 20 here. I mean, just because we have greater balance, and he understands that. The other thing about the scrimmage the other day, I think we had 7 guys in double figures, and 6 or 7, and Janai had 9. So we're going to, our strength right now looks like the 10 or 11 guys. We have 10 or 11 guys that are going to play.
Bruce, how do you see that point guard position sort of shaking out? I mean, think back when you had Zepp starting, but then you brought Wendell in.
Right.
Could that be what Trey and it looks like? Is it too early to tell how those guys will play off?
Yeah, I mean, somebody's going to start and somebody's going to finish.
Yeah.
They both want to start. They both want to finish.
Yeah.
And it's the competition is really good. Interestingly, you would assume, or at least I would assume, that Aiden come in and will be way ahead, have an advantage offensively because he's such a great shooter, such a great scorer. Both Aiden and Trey have done a nice job offensively. It's on the defensive side that they both have got to make progress and show me, who can get stops, who can keep their man in front, who can make plays defensively, who makes the other 4 guys better with their defensive transitions, so on and so forth. So, it's a great competition, and obviously we won't know for 4 weeks until who's going to be out there and coming off the bench.
With Janai,
But I do not see them starting together. I don't see. I think that there's been enough strength off the ball to make them both play the position at this point.
And with Janai, he goes through all that in the summer, getting the NBA feedback,
Right.
testing the draft board. How much have you seen him kind of improve and kind of build off of that here?
Well, Janai is offensively, really, really good. And this summer, he really dominated. Really, I think not dominated, but he had an edge in the competition with him and Dylan. Dylan's had a great fall. Dylan has had a great fall to the point where Dylan is affecting the game in the air and rebounding the ball. And I'll tell you what. Part of that transition has been a conversation. Everybody wants to be a stretch 5, and so both this summer, both Dylan and Janai, spent a lot of time shooting the ball from the perimeter. But every time they're shooting it, they're out away from the basket where they're not getting offensive rebounds, they're not getting post touches, they're not getting to the free throw line. And for both of them, that's going to be a factor too. They're both, going to go to the foul line, and they both have to shoot better percentages, from the free throw line. I look, they're both going to play. They're both going to play, and Janai needs to continue to affect the game at both ends. And give multiple efforts on the defensive end. Play faster, play quicker. He's lost some weight. I think he's moving better, but he has to apply that movement in the game because he's played at a certain pace his whole life, and I just want him to play faster and quicker.
He talked a little bit about just sort of the body transformation that's gone on in the weight room this offseason. It looks significant on paper team-wide, but just how significant has it been for everything?
It's significant. I mean, Damon Davis is as good a strength coach as there is in the country. We've had guys that have had to, like Janai, for example, trim down a little bit, okay, and you've seen that. Chumo Kiki had 19% body fat when he came here. He trimmed down. And then you've seen guys like, Chaney Johnson or Chad Baker, Denver Jones, that all 3 of those guys, Aiden Holloway, all 4 of those guys are brand new. And you can see their bodies have already changed. Look, we just stopped lifting 4 times a week last week when we went to 5 days of practice. Like literally, the guys were lifting 4 days a week, and it was relentless. And so I think that's going to help those guys put on some size, help them score through contact, help them defend a little better. It's obviously it's a man's league.
You got 1 or 2 guys that win their matchup defensively consistently that jump out at you?
You know what? Now Denver, I think has recognized that he was known as an offensive player at Florida International. He's worked hard as defense. Chaney Johnson has got some real strong natural defensive ability. He's got some real feel. Obviously, he was well coached by Coach Shulman at Huntsville, and he's got the athleticism and the size and explosiveness to be a factor on the defensive end. And Chris Moore is always going to give you the physicality and the effort, defensively. But I'd say we need more. We definitely need more, defensive playmakers.
One more question. You guys, a ton of high-level recruits on campus over the weekend. How has your pitch to them maybe sort of changed since the Final Four? I guess that a couple years ago, obviously that was a huge selling point for you guys, and obviously your NBA talent. Is it still Is it still leaning toward those couple things? I guess what is your main pitch to them when you have guys on campus?
Well, I mean, if they can't, if I know across the board in all sports, everybody had a lot of players in this weekend, and obviously the atmosphere was great. These kids are going on lots of different visits to lots of different places whose atmosphere is great, but this atmosphere is better. It's just different. I think part of it is when they leave the stadium and they recognize, how truly welcoming people are, how people are getting along, and even the out of town guests, even with the exception when the dogs were barking, the particularly Georgia fans could come to Auburn and they'll walk away going, I was treated with respect and I had a great experience, had a great time at Auburn. That doesn't exist everywhere, and it exists here. Those are the kind of kids that we want and have here at Auburn. So.
Thanks.